Thank you for your interest in high school standards highlights. In winter 2017, districts will be notified of the finalized revisions. Resources will be updated in the spring of 2017. Then in the 2017-2018 school year, schools will implement the new revised standards, taking into consideration any gaps or overlaps of instruction for students. In 2018-2019, the assessments will be updated to reflect the revisions. This video will address the standards highlights. When looking at the standards comparison document, revisions are shown in red text. Deletions are not indicated, but can be found by comparing the original to the revision. Also to be noted, a revision to any standard prompted a review for impact on other standards. Standards were checked and revised for vertical alignment in all domains, conceptual categories, and all grade levels courses. Footnotes were added to the appropriate cluster statements and standards in K-12. Those additions are marked in purple text. Content area terminology was clarified with descriptions or examples embedded in the standard or with a superscript G denoting a glossary entry. All clarifications were made in efficient and effective ways. For example, lengthy explanations or assessment limitations will be given more attention in the model curriculum or other appropriate documents, and original formatting was maintained to allow easy access to public domain resources and textbooks. Plus standards were reviewed for appropriate placement. Some of them were changed or moved. All standards where modeling is integrated now have their own star next to it. The advisory committee directed the working group to clarify standards that appeared in 2 courses within a pathway. The following slides show how this was done. Documents will be published by courses to accommodate these requests. Some standards now have course designations such as Algebra 1, Math 1, or Algebra 2, Math 3, listed after an A, B, or C. These designations indicate where to focus instruction within the standard. In the example, the top section of the standard is in the STEM. The STEM shows the content to be taught in all courses. Looking at the course designations, an Algebra 1 teacher should be focusing his or her instruction on A, which focuses on linear equations, B, which focuses on quadratic functions, and E, which focuses on simple exponential functions. An Algebra 1 teacher can ignore C, D, and F, as the focuses of these types of functions will come in later courses. However, a teacher may choose to touch on these types of functions to extend a topic if he or she wishes. Notice in the shown example there is a star next to the STEM. This means that modeling should also be incorporated whenever that standard appears in a course. There is also a superscript G next to the word midline, shown by the green box. That means midline appears in the glossary. Also notice that G and H are plus standards, shown by the pink boxes. Plus standards are standards for students who plan on taking advanced courses. Standards with a plus sign will not appear on Ohio State tests. Sometimes plus signs are given a course designation, which means that the standard should still be taught to advanced students within that course. But in cases like this, the plus sign indicates a 4th-year course. Notice that in this standard, on the slide, the STEM has a course designation. This shows that the full extent of the STEM is intended for an Algebra 2 or Math 3 course. However, B shows that Algebra 1 and Math 2 students are responsible for a modified version of the STEM that focuses on linear, exponential, and quadratic functions. However, again, a teacher may choose to touch on different types of functions besides quadratics, exponentials, and linear functions to extend a topic if he or she wishes. The advisory committee also asked the working group to consider the issue of making the union of standards in Algebra 1 and geometry similar to the union of standards in Math 1 and Math 2. The first 2 years of mathematics courses of the 2 pathways cover the same standards and arrive at the same endpoints by the end of year 2. That means that Algebra 2 and Math 3 are the same course. Here is an example of a change in algebra standards. One of the results of the revisions is that students in 8th grade are responsible for knowing how to solve linear systems graphically and by simple inspection. Students in Algebra 1 and Math 1 are responsible for knowing how to solve systems algebraically. The next slides show some changes in geometry standards. Research showed that students were not developmentally ready to reason about a quadrilateral hierarchy until high school, so the standard moved from 5th grade to high school. Now a general discussion of attributes happens in 5th grade. A formal discussion of classification has now been moved to the high school. Proofs may appear in different forms and formats throughout all high school courses. Students should be given an opportunity to prove theorems both formally and informally using a variety of methods. Methods can include, but should not be limited to, the two-column proof. Some other examples of proofs could be a paragraph proof, a flowchart, a transformational proof, or a proof using dynamic geometry software. To clarify the concepts of proofs, the words verify, justify, and prove have been added to the glossary. They are denoted by the letter G and can be found in the glossary. Verify means to establish the truth or correctness of a statement in specific cases. Justify means to give a convincing argument for the truth of a statement to a particular audience. To prove something is to provide a logical argument that demonstrates the truth of a statement. A proof is typically composed of a series of justifications, which are often single sentences and may be presented informally or formally. Middle school statistics was one of the areas that was most affected by the revisions. Revisions to the statistics and probability domain reflect the development of a framework for statistical problem solving. Concepts were moved to different grade levels, language was clarified, and the framework skills were reinforced throughout grades 6 through 8. One standard in 6th grade and one standard in 7th grade gives the outline for the GAZE framework. The first stage is to formulate questions, then collect data, then analyze data, and finally interpret results. This process should happen whenever students solve statistical problems. This framework will start in 6th grade and students will continue to use it in high school. In 6th grade, students will develop the framework of the GAZE model. Then in 7th grade, they will broaden their understanding. In 8th grade, they will use it to analyze data, and they will apply the model while using statistical reasoning in high school. For more information and further resources, please visit the Ohio Department of Education's website.